What's going on, guys? Kevin here from thesportsgeek.com, and in this video I'm going to break down one of my GPP and cash game lineups at DraftKings. Okay, so I've got a video explaining the differences between a cash game and a GPP game at DraftKings, but on this slide I'm just going to quickly run over what you're looking for in each lineup. So in cash games, we're talking about the 50-50s and the double ups. You're looking for players with high floors, which means even if they don't have a great game, they should still put up a decent number of DraftKings points. And then you're also looking for players in good matchups, because you don't want a player who puts up a 0 or maybe 2 points or something like that. You want players to at least get close to that double-digit range, if not higher. And then the third point here, you're hoping that players score around 2 to 3 times their salary in points. I have their salary in quotations because it's not actually 4,000 times 3. We're going to move the decimal place over 3 spots to the left. So for a $4,000 salary, you're going to go 4 times 2 to 3. So you're hoping that a $4,000 player scores you around 12 points. And then for 50-50 and double ups, we're just looking for a lineup in the top roughly 40%. So you don't need to get that top first place lineup for these contests. You're just looking for a lineup that scores in the top 40% of lineups. And then for GPP lineups, it's quite different. We're going for players with high ceilings, so players that have the ability to score a ton of points. They have high upside. And with GPP lineups, we can risk good players in poor matchups because those players are probably going to be low owned. Let's say that Brady is facing the number 1 defense. He's still capable of putting up 4 or 5 passing touchdowns against even the best defense, but he'll probably be lower owned. So you can risk that in GPP contests. And for GPPs, we're hoping that our players score around 4 to 5 times their salary in points. So for the same example, a $4,000 player, you want him to score roughly 20 points. And for GPP lineups, we don't care about finishing in the top 40%. We're looking for that elite lineup that finishes in the top 1% and hopefully first overall in all the lineups in the contest. So it could be maybe 200,000 lineups, and you want to be that top 1% to get a big payday. So here are 2 different examples of some lineups. On the left, we've got a cash game lineup for week 11 of the NFL season, and on the right, we've got a GPP lineup. So first, let's look at the cash game. With quarterback, I went with Derek Carr. He's relatively cheap at $6,300. He's been playing great lately. He has a pretty high floor as of late. He's been putting up around 20 points, which is right about where we need him with that $6,300 salary. Running back, I went with Charcandrick West, $4,500. That's very cheap for the amount of touches he's getting each game. So he's going to be in a lot of lineups, but you definitely want him in a cash game because of his price. Devontae Freeman, he's expensive, but he has a high floor. Every game he's played in, he's been scoring at least around 20 points. So you want him in your lineup for those pretty much guaranteed points. He's going to get his touches. He's probably going to put up his points. So you definitely want someone like that in your lineup. And then at wide receiver, we're going to stack Crabtree with Carr. Crabtree's price has rose, but he's still pretty cheap given the amount of targets he's getting, the amount of points he's putting up. So $6,000, he's worth the price there. And then we've got Danny Amendola. Again, another really popular play given the price at $4,000 because Edelman is now out. He's injured. So Amendola is going to get a ton of targets. And at $4,000 playing with Brady, pretty good matchup at home, Monday Night Football. That's a great cash game play this week. Same thing goes with Stevie Johnson. He's now the number 1 wide receiver in San Diego given the injuries, and he's just $3,900. San Diego's been throwing the ball a ton. Stevie Johnson should get a lot of targets. He should meet value here for a cash game lineup. Greg Olsen, tight end. So I paid up at tight end this week because there's not a lot of great options. Olsen is the number 1 target for Cam Newton in Carolina. He gets the red zone looks, ability to put up lots of points, but he also has a pretty high floor. $6,200 is a little expensive for a tight end, but this week, given the options, I'll pay up for him. And then Mike Evans, same thing, huge target machine in Tampa Bay. Winston loves going to Evans. Vincent Jackson is dealing with an injury right now, and Evans is still pretty cheap at $7,300 given the amount of targets he's getting and the amount of points he's been putting up lately. So I'll take him. And then Panthers, they're a top-ranked defense. They're at home. They're big favorites, so that's what you want to look in a defense. You want teams that are playing at home and are big favorites and that have pretty good defensive units. So at $3,400, I like the Panthers. And that rounds out my cash game lineup, and I ended up spending the entire $50,000 salary just the way it worked out. You don't have to, but you want to usually get pretty close to it. And then on the right here, we've got a GPP lineup. So as you can see, this is going to be completely different. We're going with risky picks, and we want players that a lot of other people don't have. So at QB, I went with Alex Smith, $5,000. So going by the 4 to 5 times salary, we're hoping that he can put up about 25 DraftKings points. 2 weeks ago, he put up 27 points, so he does have the ability to do that. He's facing a weak San Diego defense, so I think he even has the ability to put up 30 points if he has a great game. It's pretty rare for Smith, but he can do it, and he's going to be really lowly owned. Then at running back, we went with two players that aren't going to be as highly owned as West and Freeman. We went with McFadden at $5,000 and then Marshawn Lynch at $6,700. So he's one of the more expensive running backs, but he's in a great matchup at home against San Fran. Seattle's expected to put up somewhere around 21 points or more. So Lynch could get maybe 2 touchdowns and 100 yards and have a pretty good game for us. And then at receiver, instead of going with Freeman from Atlanta, I paid up the price to get Julio Jones. We know that Jones can put up those 40-point DraftKings nights, and he's at $9,300, so I don't think he'll be too highly owned given the high price. A lot of people will go down to the next tier at around $7,000 to get like the Calvin Johnsons or the Mike Evans. So I'm going to pay up for him, hoping that he puts up a 40-point night. Instead of going with Amendola, we went with Brandon LaFell here. So it's a little bit of a pivot play in New England. You know New England's going to throw the ball a lot. They're going to put up their points on offense. And instead of going with Amendola, who's $300 cheaper, I went ahead and paid up $300 for Brandon LaFell. A little bit of a deep threat. He does have the ability to score a couple touchdowns. So instead of Amendola, I'm going with LaFell in my GPP lineups. He's going to be much lower owned than Amendola. And then with my third wide receiver spot, you'll see that I did a little bit of a correlation play with my defense. So Tavon Austin has the ability to return punts and kicks back for touchdowns. And if he does that, my defense is the Rams. So the Rams would get points for special teams touchdowns. So if Austin was to return a punt for a touchdown, he would get 6 points, and then the Rams would also get 6 points as well. So that's a bit of a correlation play there. Other than that, he does have the ability to put up big games too. He's $4,600. He probably won't be too highly owned given that he's with a new quarterback, Case Keenum. So it's a good GPP play there. And then tight end, we stacked Alex Smith with Travis Kelce, one of Smith's favorite targets, and he has the ability to put up a big game. He's a cheap price at $4,700. So I think that's a really good play at tight end this week for GPPs. And then my flex spot, I went with another guy who returns kicks. He returns punts, Jarvis Landry. So he can put up big games just by catching the ball. But if he also throws in a punt return for a touchdown, that's huge for winning a GPP. So I threw him in there at $6,700. He has a really high upside. Great player there. So that's what a GPP lineup looks like. You can see I have $100 remaining in salary, which is fine. I usually try to keep that to $300 or less. With GPPs, you can even do more than $300 because we're going with a little more risky plays. But there you guys go. There's an example of the difference between my cash game lineups and my GPP lineups. I hope that kind of helped you guys learn the differences between what a cash game and a GPP lineup might look like. If you guys enjoyed this video, let me know by clicking the thumbs up button on YouTube so I know to keep making videos like this. And if you don't already have my free lineup generator tool, make sure you get that. All you have to do is click on the link in the YouTube description below and you'll get that absolutely free. As always guys, good luck at DraftKings. Hope you guys win some money. Cheers.